Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Amish Rebel Podcast, Amish Media Group. Today we have a very special guest on. I hope that you enjoy our conversation that we're about to get into. His name is Dennis Gingrich. Thank you, Dennis, for making it all the way down here and joining us on today's episode. Look forward to getting into a great conversation. And also just documenting your story of growing up Amish. I know that people really enjoy these stories. Make sure you like, comment, and share this episode if you get something out of it. And we'll get right into it. Dennis, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit of how it was growing up in your community, since we were basically in the same community, right? I mean, we went to the same church at times. And,
well, we grew up like 12 miles apart, or eight maybe. Yeah,
8 miles apart. I remember when our church split and we started going to your guy, I guess it would have been your bishop. His district. Really? You remember that?
Benny,
yeah, because we were like basically going to several different churches at the time, just because our church was split. There's no order to it.
Yeah. So. See, I don't really remember. I remember when he became the bishop, but I didn't know you guys were still Amish.
I remember having church at your house. I remember being at your house when you guys had church.
Really?
So I was like maybe 12, 13 at the time. But
how old are you?
I'm 36.
Okay.
At the time of this recording. This is 2025.
So I'm 23. So I wasn't even... You're 36, so I wasn't even born then.
I've seen some of your stories. Before we get too far into it, I guess, you can also check out Dennis's YouTube channel. He has a YouTube channel called Dennis Gingrich.
Yeah, Dennis Gingrich, or it's at Dennis Gingrich Ministries.
Is it on YouTube, Facebook?
YouTube. Facebook, Instagram, you can look me up, just Dennis Gingrich. Instagram is actually DN Gingrich.
Okay.
Yeah. You can find it. I also have ministry pages. I'm also on TikTok, X, but I barely post on there.
Okay.
So. But anyway, being on here, the Amish Rebel Podcast, but I do feel like a rebel because I'm dressed. I have the watch and everything. I'm not dressed Amish like Enos is, but it's a huge honor to be here. And one story that I remember very vividly growing up was, there's obviously more, but at the age of, I don't know, was I 9? I think my first cousin died of leukemia cancer. And one evening, because they were just the next door neighbors, you know Uncle Dan.
Uncle Dan.
Showing us at any.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was his daughter. She was always like the most kind in school, always smiling, never said much. She was on my brother's grade. But then she ends up dying of leukemia. When school ended, like the middle of April, we didn't know anything was wrong with her, and I think like within like 4 weeks she passed.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
Yeah, and as a little Amish boy, because like you're scared of hell because they ingrain hell into you, and then death. When she died, like it hurt. Like I'm like, man, I don't want to die because I don't know.
Say, how old were you again when she died?
I think maybe I was 7. Because I think she was 9.
So that would have been
2010.
That would have been like your first experience of an Amish funeral, or like close.
Yeah,
funeral?
especially like that close.
Okay.
Because it's like now it's first cousin, somebody I go to school with that's close to my age. And it was, yeah.
Wow.
But, so if you guys don't know, the Amish, the way they have a funeral is when the person dies. For instance, she was in Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, which is an hour away from where we grew up. And she died at 9:43 p.m. on a Sunday night, I believe. So immediately my dad and a couple other people, they go over to the house and they sing all night, because when an Amish person, like when they lay dead before they get buried, they will never let the house be quiet the whole time. You know how they sing?
Like you're talking like not letting it be quiet, as in like they get people together and they just sing. 24/7 they're singing it.
24/7 there's somebody up, somebody awake. So my dad did that, and then I think it was the Monday night we went over there to, we were closer relatives, so I don't think we were able to help. Because the family.
So wait, let's pause for just a second, because the audience, a lot of them will not understand what you're saying. You're not allowed to help. So the Amish have this structure, right? That if a funeral, like somebody passes, only certain people within the community are allowed to come and help.
Yeah. So if you're immediate family, you can't help, and if you're like close family, you usually don't help. But then outside people that are not related or not close related, they'll come, they'll haul the manure, they'll clean the barn, they'll clean the house, they'll set everything up.
So we're talking about, like, if you have a dairy farm, you're not, because the Amish don't live in the city.
Yeah.
They either have a farm, they have a wood shop, they have something day-to-day chores that need to be done. That's all taken care of. Yeah. Like, you don't have to do a single thing.
No, the immediate family, they're not allowed to touch anything.
Wow.
Like, literally.
That's special. I know I'm acting surprised, but I'm reacting and standing in the gap for the audience. Obviously, I know this because I grew up Amish and I experienced it, but it is amazing how they operate when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Which in one sense, it's really nice, but in another sense, it's also like, especially for the kids, it's very, I don't know, like boring, because then you just have to sit around all day and you can't do anything. And, like the best thing when some tragedy happens is work. Especially for me, like I grew up working, so working gets your mind to think of something else, but it is nice in a sense that other people do it. But the story I wanted to get to was that night.
I got a detour you there.
That's fine. That night we're walking home and I'm this 7-year-old little Amish boy. I got my straw hat. It's a nice breeze blowing. It's a nice May evening in Minnesota. And my parents have a farm right here in a dead end. And then my uncle, where the funeral was just a quarter mile up the road. So we just walked there. And it's 10 o'clock at night and it's dark. And we're walking back. And as we get back to our farm, there's a curve in the road. And what I forgot was that winter, we had put a single barbed wire fence along the ditch to get our horses up to the upper 40 to graze on the fields. So we're walking down there and we're just getting to the curve, and a strong breeze comes from behind, blows my hat off, and it's dark. The Amish don't have any yard lights or nothing. So I chase after my hat, and I'm just 7 years old, so I'm the perfect height of my forehead is that barbed wire, and I take off into the ditch and I don't see it. And the barbed wire catches me right here and knocks me on my feet. So when the funeral happened, I had a nice scar right above my nose. So.
Wow. That scar is still slightly there.
Zoom in on it. I'm very insecure.
That's how you identify Dennis as barbed wire. But there you go. If you ever wondered if an Amish person loses its hat, yes, this hat does fly off and with you, especially as a kid.
Especially a straw hat too.
These
black wool hats are thicker and heavier.
Yeah, they stay on a little better. But so you're going home, and walk me through the funeral service. So what's that like? Like the day of the service when somebody passes, and well, actually, take me through how many days is it from the time they pass and until the service itself?
It's usually 3 days or 4. So if they die before midnight, I think it's like 3 days. So she died Sunday at 10 p.m. So the funeral was Wednesdays.
Okay.
But if she would have died at 1 a.m., the funeral would have been Thursday, I believe is how it is. So it's a couple days. The Amish do get embalmed, in case you're wondering if they stink at the funeral. No, they do get it embalmed, which is
That's
good.
a pretty modern.
Some don't. I think it's in Pennsylvania that some don't. So they have to literally bury them within 48 hours of them dying. So it's for them, it's everything's rush. People get there and then they do the funeral and they go bury them into the ground.
Yeah, and the Amish, it's not a small funeral service. It's the entire community, and in fact, there's communities involved from around the country. Really, they come from all over. Like when my dad passed, we had an Amish funeral for him a few years back, three years ago, and we had relatives come from Canada by train, by bus. They came in for the funeral, so it's like, it's crazy how quick they can get there, even though they don't have modern technology. I mean, they don't fly. They don't fly in a plane. So.
And they're not necessarily allowed to just hire a driver and drive straight through.
They are not.
They have to get on a train or a bus or something.
Yeah, and of course we're talking about the Swartz Trooper Amish. If you've been following the podcast a while, you know that those are the majority of the conversations that we have are based around our experience. You grew up Swartz Trooper Amish, and there's more modern Amish that are, some of them actually do fly, but like the old order, some of the old order do fly. Yeah. And but anyway, so it's like within 3 days, generally speaking. Yeah. And then what happens during the day of the funeral, like the morning of, and kind of walk us through the day?
So the morning of, like, everybody gets there. You have buckies flying in the driveway, left, right, and center, and all the people that are not related. That, like, there's a whole group of boys. Like, for instance, if I'm not related directly to the family, and I'm like a teenager or above, I wear a blue shirt instead of a white church shirt, like Enos is wearing. Oh, wow. That color shirt, and then you go help out. And then there's the same for the ladies. The ladies do the cooking, which funeral food at an Amish funeral is crazy. You literally get bread with some kind of some kind of dipping, and then pickles, beets, and coffee. Like it's a crazy funeral meal. But in the morning of, then all the close related families, they'll get to sit in a certain area, like closer to wherever the person is held, or in the house. Because sometimes the funerals are so big that they have the house full, the barn full, and then like a shop or something. It's all full. So they have 3 different services. So the preachers, they might have, I think they usually do 2 preachers per service. So they need 6 preachers. And the way they do it for the preachers is whoever shows up is going to preach. They don't like designate any preachers. It's like, if you show up, you could be it. But then they get everybody seated, and I think it's within like, what is it, like 2 hours? It's a shorter service. They do a service, and the preacher preaches, and then they go through kind of like an English funeral, like the person's life, how long they lived, how many relatives they left behind, and all that. And then they if the cemetery is close, because they have to drive there with a horse and buggy, if the cemetery is like pretty close, they go bury the person right after the service. Well, actually, so right after the service, there's one last viewing. So it starts by the people that aren't related, they come through, they do a viewing, and then it gets down to like furthest relatives, down to the closest relatives are the last to view them. So if they have the casket outside, somebody's got to hold the umbrella, which I always thought that'd be the worst spot, because you literally got to look at the dead person the whole time. But they do. So the immediate family gets to see them for one last time, and then they close the casket. And if it's closed, the cemetery is closed, they'll go bury them. They put the casket in a bucky, and then that bucky goes first, and then the family. So they have a whole line of buckies going to the cemetery, and then they bury them, and then they come back and eat the lunch, the bread, and whatever. But if the cemetery is like, let's say 4 miles. 4 miles is a long ways with a horse and buggy.
Mm-hmm.
Especially a funeral, because they can't go fast. Like, they won't be whipping the horse because the person has to stay laying in the casket. But then if it's like that, they usually eat. Like, especially the people that are going to the cemetery will eat, and then...
Oh, yeah, that's right. They do eat beforehand.
And they have, like, usually 4 pallbearers, which they get the casket over on the grave. They set it on top, and then they take straps. It's all manhandled. They lift the casket up, and then the 4 people lower it down. Unless it's a big guy. There's one big Amish guy that his casket was 3 feet wide and 3 feet deep, and it took 8 guys.
No way!
Yeah.
Wow. And it's actually very unique how they all work together. I mean, like everything is like very well put together, and it's very in unison. Thinking that, I mean, there's very little rehearsal, right? Like, it's not like you go out there and rehearse this and you make sure everything's...
But it's also sketchy because you have this grave, and then you have a board on each side where the people stand on, so you just pray that the grave doesn't cave in.
Yes. I wonder if that's happened. I bet it has.
I don't know. I don't know if you remember, but I was a pallbearer for your mom.
Yes, I remember.
And then they... because she did like an Amish grave, they dug it by hand and everything. But then they lower the casket down, and then one person has to hop down in the grave, which is the creepiest part. And then they put like they have the Amish call it the rough box. I don't know what they call it in modern day. But
it's like an outer box that kind of protects the main casket itself.
Yeah, then somebody goes down in there, covers that up. So
so the casket's set in with an outer rough box, and then there's like a lid that gets put on top, and then you cover it with dirt on top of that.
And it's all wood. Like, I think the English people use concrete sometimes, or other different boxes. Yeah.
So what he means by English people is non-Amish.
Yeah. Us Amish person, we refer to outsiders as Englishers.
Yes.
No matter no matter your race, you're just Englishers.
Just definitely invite it back on, because we could go a lot longer. And I appreciate the knowledge that you brought to the audience. If you guys really enjoyed this podcast today, please make sure that you leave us your thoughts in the comments, and also share this with your family member and friends. It really helps the podcast to grow, our community to grow. You guys have done an incredible job with that, and with that, we thank you, and remember to always be intentional. We'll see you in the next video.
Thanks, Enos.
That was good. That was a good back and forth.
How long did we
made it to 5 o'clock.
Was that an hour and a half? Almost.